here. My son wanted me to do a YouTube video. He said the YouTube guys wanted to see me. He's over here running his dump truck. Are you playing in that oil? Are we playing in that oil? And now all I hear is so that right there is the starter not engaging the flywheel. I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it, Bobby. So I tested the voltage. Voltage was good. Then my next thing is, okay, if the voltage is high, it was sitting at 12.9. It's froze. Okay, well, I'll stop walking around and then it'll be better. So then I, let's see, started making the starter wasn't engaging. So then I'm like, okay, let's start tapping on this stupid solenoid, because generally speaking, you can tap on the solenoid and you can get it to kick on, right? You can start the truck. Well, that was not happening this morning. So when my driver got here, when Brandon got here at 4:30 in the morning, I had him hold the flashlight and I took the starter out. So on the starter on this, you basically got 3 bolts that hold the starter on, and then you got 1 bolt or 1 nut on the starter itself that has the negative wires, and then you have 1 nut on the solenoid that has the positive wires. And then there's also a signal wire, right, on the very top. And so we took it out, and right when we got it to the bottom, I noticed that the signal wire was loose. I'm like, oh, we found it. We're gonna rock and roll. We're gonna work it, So then I got another screw that wasn't stripped, right? Because that screw was stripped. So we got another screw. We put that on there, tightened everything down, put everything back. The starter still spinning, but not kicking, not engaging. It wasn't hitting hard enough for it to engage and then turn the flywheel. So I let the dispatch know. I said, the starter, hey, quit playing in that oil. I'm gonna smack you too. Told you once already. Quit playing in it. So then, you two better be nice. I'll end this live stream right now if I have to. So then I let dispatch know. I said, hey, it's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna make it today. And it wasn't that big of a deal anyways, because today was gonna be a short day with 2 trucks running. So I took the starter back again. So I took the starter out a total of 2 times, right? And I put the old one back. So I took the old one out. We fixed the wire. We put it back in. It didn't work. So I took it out again. And then I drove to Tacoma and grabbed a new starter. And when I was there, I also grabbed a power steering reservoir. Because this one, the one that I had on here, this is a new power steering reservoir. You can see it. Brand new. The last one, right where this seam was, it was cracked. And it was leaking. So I replaced that. Got the new one on there. I also put another strap on that radiator hose. You can see it right there. Put a second strap on it because it was leaking too. So change the reservoir, change the starter, put a new starter in there. Now we got a brand new shiny starter. There's the new starter right there, guys. Easy peasy. Pretty soon here. So I didn't make it out today to make some money, so I figured I'd just do stupid stuff on the truck, you know, fix all the little stupid stuff that I could find. So, you know, it happens. Little stuff happens, you know. The starter was like, I think it was like $300, $350 or $250, something like it was up there. I know that. The power steering reservoir was like $150 at the dealership. You know, those guys, man, I should have just bought that one on Amazon or something. Power steering reservoir, probably could have got one of those. Does the engine have any blow-by? No, not really. Not that I can really notice. You know, it's got a little breather tube that goes down, but there's not a lot of smoke or anything coming out of it. It does drip a little bit of oil, you know, but that, you know, what diesel truck doesn't drip oil out of those tubes, you know? So, the next thing I'm trying to figure out what I want to do is the back of this strong arm. It just looks hideous. They got two different types of fenders. Hard to make a buck. Yeah, it is hard, Linda, you know, but I feel like we've worked all the kinks out of it. We've pretty much worked all the kinks out. So, she's ready to rock and roll. I mean, look at this. You got the diamond deck on this side, and then you got the normal kind on that side. So, I still don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to put a mud flap on that or not. I might just take that one off. Because my other truck doesn't even have mud flaps on it. It just has this little plastic thing right there. Just like that, basically. It doesn't have the whole fender or nothing. It's just got that little plastic thing. So, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. But I want to make that look a little bit nicer. Hey, man. The stupid starter was going out. I knew it was the starter, too. It had been going out since I bought the truck. I kind of knew it. I knew it was going to happen. I was just hoping it was going to last through the week. I thought it was going to last through the end of the week. You know, because what I was able to do... When am I getting that wrench hose? Oh, that wrench? Haas. Gotcha. We'll do that right now, Frankie. There we go. So let's see. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So I knew it was a starter because since I bought the truck, the thing had an issue. You turn the key on, you wait till the clicking finished, and then you go to start it. And sometimes it would start, and sometimes it would just go poop, poop. You know, like it was trying to engage, but it didn't have enough oomph to turn it. You know what I mean? And then usually on like the third click, it would crank it over and start it. So I had a feeling that, you know, the starter solenoid was going out, and I was 99% sure that's what it was. And then, you know, this morning, yesterday, I called the dealership and I said, hey, this is my VIN number. I need a starter. Call me back. And they never called me. So I went home, you know, and I should have just called them again, you know, when I had gotten done off work. Because I was going to stop by and get a starter, you know, and just replace it and see if that fixed it. And, but they never called me back. And then I called them this morning, you know, after everything was all, you know, nothing worked. And then they, you know, I was on my way there already and they had a starter. So, you know, put that on and now she starts right up first click. That's what I want to know. Did they get that Kenworth? What's the good news? Or is that next Monday? I think that's next Monday. Oh, another thing I was looking at. This is, well, it's supposed to be a proximity switch. But as you can see, can you see it? Will it focus? It's hard to tell, but this thin wire, this wire broke, so I got to get another one of these. I was trying to take this apart and see why it wasn't working, because typically with these proximity sensors, these have little orange lights in them and they light up. And so I was just messing around, and the next thing you know, this thing just pulled out. So that's a pretty good indicator that the sensor is toast. Somebody else probably was like, oh, what's this? And then they pulled it out and broke it, and then just jammed it back in there. Who knows? But gotta get another one of those. That one didn't work anyway, so I mean, now I know it doesn't work. But so what that is supposed to do is basically, when the strong arm is down and the tarp is back, it's supposed to shut the strong arm off from going up when the tarp is deployed. I have no luck at all. It definitely feels like that sometimes. It definitely feels like that. But we did get some checks in the mail, so, you know, not everything's all doom and gloom. Not everything is doom and gloom. We got some big checks, thank goodness. You know, so we're definitely good, you know. We're not stressing or nothing. So yeah, those starters, man, they are heavy. Here, I'll show you the starter I took out of it. Try not to walk over there too fast so the internet gets crazy on me. There's the starter I took out. So this is screw we put on there. Let me show it to you. It's kind of funny how we did the screw that came out of there halfway up. It was all stripped, like basically from where my fingernail is back this way. It was stripped, so it had a little bit of thread. We're gonna use a hacksaw and cut it, but then I was like, I got these nuts. Let's just throw these nuts. We thought that's what it was gonna be, but it wasn't. On vanduyn, you know, they're just not built like they were back in the day, where they would last oil on them and then they burn out. You know, those solenoids, the points on them, they're not made with the... It's freezing up bad. Yeah, sorry, John. I'm out in the middle of nowhere, you know. But alright, let's just go into the shop and I'll set you guys down and then we can have a little talk. BFE? What's that? What's BFE? What's that? I'm just closing it so there's not so much light in here. I can't say it. Oh. But anyways, you know, when you're running a business, this is one thing I said, you know, that stuck with me the whole day, basically. You know, I was talking to Brandon. Brandon was holding the flashlight when I was pulling the starter out, right? And I said to him, I'm like, all this for $600, you know, because it's supposed to be a short day, you know, 3 loads a piece, you know, which would be 3 loads a piece, $600 a piece. So I was gonna make $1,200 today, you know, and we were gonna get done early. Is kind of what the plan was, you know. And I said, all this for $600, you know. And he's like, yeah, I don't know if it's worth it. And I said, you know, everybody wants to be a dump truck owner until it comes time to really being a dump truck owner, you know. And I said, this is what it is like being a dump truck owner, you know. 4:30 in the morning on a piece of cardboard on a rock driveway, trying to get your truck, for some reason something's broke and you're trying to fix it, and it's just like, not everything is all flowers and rainbows, especially in the dump truck world, and I try and convey that to you guys as best I can, but you guys a lot of you still want to be dump truck owners, but it's tough work sometimes, The good thing is if we get both trucks rolling on Monday, I'll have my second driver, so I get to sleep in. Unless the solo goes out, which I don't think it will. It's probably not going to work until May. That's when that thing starts to pick up work. At least that's how it's been for me. So, everybody wants to be a dump truck owner till it comes time to being a dump truck owner. Hi, Rosemary. When you have to wake up at 3, you gotta wake up at 3. Something ain't working, you gotta make it work. You gotta find a way to make it work, or else you lose that money, Can't let, a $200 starter keep you from making $1,000 worth of work. Oh, it's for the rock quarry, and I wouldn't make any money if I did with the regular solo. They're paying $9 a ton, and so let's just do the math here real quick. Let's just say $10 a ton, because that'll make it easy to do the math. My solo hauls 15 tons, right? So that's $150 a load, and only doing 3 loads in a day. That would be 3, 4, so $450. That's not worth it, because I'm driving basically an hour and a half to the quarry, maybe 2 hours to get to the quarry in the morning, maybe hour 45. And then, luckily on my last load, I'm only like an hour away from home, with the job they were going to send me to. I'd only be an hour away. But so just think about it. So if I'm that far away, I'm getting basically 3 hours I'm giving them for free in travel time, right? And then I'm going to be working for like at least 4 hours, maybe 5 hours, hauling those 3 loads. So I'm basically working 6-7 hours and only getting paid $400. No, not happening. Not happening. I'm not doing that anymore. So if I had a trailer for my solo, then I could definitely go to work for the quarry with it, and I could make some decent money. But they pay by the ton, so it is what it is. Is all your work a minimum an hour away? I would say typically, yes, it's at least an hour away. I would say typically. I did have a big job that was in Lacey, which is like 30 minutes away, 40 minutes away tops. And that lasted about 2 months last summer. So that was super nice. That was with the solo and the super dump. But typically, when I'm working for the quarry, that's like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. What's the furthest? Okay, well, to give you an example of what's the furthest I've done, let's see. Yesterday, I drove all the way, basically up a little past Everett. So, to give you an idea, that's basically, in rush hour traffic, it's like 2.5 hours. So I drove 2.5 hours just to get to the plant. It's almost 100 miles, basically. to get to the plant. And that's because this particular paving guy only gets his mix out of this plant in Everett. He's like so set on this plant because they give him such a good deal. Like, he doesn't, I don't know, I don't think he really calculates that much, like, cost of trucking versus cost of asphalt. Like, okay, you pay more for the asphalt, but it's closer, or you pay more for the trucking and the asphalt's further away, but you get a cheaper deal on it. You know, it's trying to balance that. But this guy always buys from the same plant, so he must be getting a smoking deal from this plant. And so I had to drive basically 2.5 hours, and that was good traffic. That was good traffic. I didn't really hit any bad traffic because I left at 4:30 in the morning. And so I got up to the plant by about I got there about 7:15-ish. So 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, 7:30. Yeah, so actually this is about 3 hours away. But so here's the nice thing with that deal. So it was a small job, and so because it was so far away, I said, "Hey man, my rate's going to be $160 an hour, 6-hour minimum, right?" And he said, "Okay, you know." Yeah, I mean, you can make it work, John. It's you know, with the way fuel is costing, you got to have a minimum. If you're driving that far, you got to give yourself kind of a minimum, or you have to realize that you're going to be doing some stuff for free, you know. And so I drove all the way up there. I texted him because I got there early. He told me my start time was at 8. I texted him at 7:15. I said, "Hey, I'm here at the plant. You want me to load early?" You know? And then he texted me about 7:25-ish. He's like, "Yeah, get loaded." You know? And that was, so my start time was at 8, but I was able to start my truck ticket at 7:30 because he was like, "Yeah, go ahead and load." Okay, I'm on the clock. Since I'm getting loaded, I'm on the clock 30 minutes earlier. So that right there is a plus. And then I only did 2 loads from that plant to his job site, and that was an hour away, basically hour to hour 15 minutes away from the plant to his job site. So so here's my house. I drive all the way up to the plant, which is way over here, and then his job was right about here in Seattle, right? So I drove all the way to the plant, drove to the job, drove back to the plant, got loaded with my last load, drove to the job site. And then, here's how I made some extra money also. You know, with my super dump, I was the last load of the day, which, I think he could have planned it out a little bit better too, where I wouldn't have been the last load. And because I'm a super dump, you know, he told me to get a full load. And I'm like, okay. I got a full load, and he should have calculated how much he really needed, because there was like 10 yards left over in the truck of asphalt. And this is the poorest asphalt, right? The stuff that they don't make all the time, and nobody wants it because it's got that super oily, sticky stuff in it. And so at the end of the day, I had like 10 yards left over. And he was like, "Well, where do I take this stuff?" And I'm like, "Well, to be honest with you, Icon's the closest. They're 5 minutes away. You know, they're probably going to charge you a little bit for it, you know." And I was guessing they were going to probably charge him around $200 just for this 10 yards to dump it, right? And so I said, "Hey man, extra $160, I'll take this stuff home." You know, I'll find a spot for it. And but I didn't say that yet. I said, maybe for an extra cost, I'll take it home. What do you say? And he said, $100. I'll give you $100 to take it. And I said, 160, and you got a deal. And he's like, deal, right? So I ended up getting 7.25 hours on the ticket. right? Hey, no, go play. You're making too much noise, dude. I'm doing a video. I'm trying to tell them a story. You can't be making noise when I'm doing that. I know you're having fun, but so I told him 160, you got a deal. He's like, deal. And then so I got 7.25 hours basically. So that's basically like at 160 an hour, it's basically $1,000, maybe a little more, right? So I made $1,000. I only worked 6 hours. I worked basically 6 hours, right? But I got paid for 7 because I told them I would take that stuff home. So I ended up getting an extra 160. These kids, man, they're driving me crazy. Tell him not to make noise, and then what does he do? Instead of making noise right here, he goes 10 feet further out and then starts racing his truck right. No, stay outside. You're making too much noise. So I basically made $1,000 to work 6 hours, right? But so total hours, if you count my drive time there and back, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, basically 10 hours roughly. So I made pretty good money considering, And then you take, I put 70 gallons of fuel in that day. So 70 times 3, basically like 160, $170 or something like that. Or maybe it's, I don't know, I don't have a calculator in front of me. I'm not very good at math unless I got a calculator. But, and here's the funny thing, right? So Brandon was working for the quarry, and I gave him the option to do the paving. And he was like, no, I don't want to drive that far away. So he ended up working more time than me and made the same amount of money as I did. And I got home an hour before he did. So that was pretty sweet. I was pretty happy about that. Now, I wasn't happy that he was on the clock longer than me, because I would rather be the one working the hours. That way I'm not paying him for the hours. But, I'm getting to the point where it's just easier to let the employee do the hours. And, I just make sure that the trucks have work, Sometimes you make choices like that and you go out on that long day and you lose money. I mean, there's times where you lose money. I mean, I normally don't lose money anymore, but sometimes, you get out there and then you break down and then you got to tow, a long way. Yeah, see, that's part of it too, John, is you got to keep your employees fed. If they don't get enough hours, then they don't get enough money. And then they start looking elsewhere, so drivers are kind of their own worst enemy in a sense, because what they do is they're like, oh, I'm making enough money, I don't need to work the hours, and then next thing you know, they get a check that's a little lower because they didn't work the hours, and they're like, I'm not making enough money here, I gotta go somewhere else and I gotta get a pay raise. And it's like, no, dude, you need to work more hours because you took off 2 days worth of work, and that's why you didn't make a normal size check. It's not that you need to make more, it's you need to work more hours, But it's hard to convey that message to them, without, hurting anybody's feelings, It's like, if you want more money, you need to work more hours. If your neighbor feeds your cat better than you will, they'll turn on you. Yes, that is true. That's like, yeah. I mean, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, So what the idea is you got to take care of them so they don't ever have to worry, It's exactly the way it is, John. That is exactly the way it is. I still got this little piece of junk This is from that idler pulley. So what do you guys got planned for the weekend? Well, John, most of it's like common sense, I would like to think. There's definitely been a learning curve, you know. There's definitely been a learning curve, you know. But I would say 90% of it's common sense, you know. It's just you don't really think about it until you have to think about it, you know. It's just like when I went to start my business and there was a guy who asked me, he's like, "Well, Brian, how do you figure out how to pay, you know? Or how do you figure out how you're supposed to charge?" I still remember the guy's question because it was so well written. He's like, "I'm trying to start a business. I'm trying to figure out how much I'm supposed to charge, you know?" And I was like, "Well, that's a great question. I'm not even in business yet. But if I was, this is how I would do it. This is how I would try and do it and figure it out." You have a good perspective since you've been on both sides of the perspective, employee and employer. Yeah, I mean, it all comes with experience, just trying new things. But the guy's question was like, "How do you charge?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know how to charge because I've never charged anybody. So this is how I'm gonna calculate it, right?" And I basically said, you got to figure out what your costs are, and then figure out what you want to make, and then that's what you charge. Basically, those two together, And then a lot of people are like, "That's not how you do it, Brian. That's not how you," they're like, "You got to charge whatever the industry's charging." No, you don't. You can charge whatever you want to charge. That's one of the things that people don't understand. When you run your own business, you can charge what you want to charge. The question is whether or not the customer is going to be willing to pay for it or not. That's like normally a super dump's $150 an hour, but I told that guy, I said $160, man, $160. And he understands it. He's like, "Okay, well, duh, fuel's through the roof right now on price, and he's driving 2 hours to get to the job, and the demand. He was already behind schedule. Number one, because it was a special type of asphalt, right? I was telling you, is that gooey, sticky stuff. It's porous asphalt is what it's called, right? So the water can drain through it supposedly. I think it's a horrible design, but the government came up with it. The county's like, "Oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread. You make the porous asphalt, and then the water goes through, and then you don't have any surface water problems." It's like, they're so stupid, because they also made him put drains in too. So it's like he's got drains and porous asphalt. So what's the point in having a drain if you have porous asphalt? It's like defeating the purpose there, But anyways, special asphalt, right? So the asphalt plant has to order that oil specifically for that porous asphalt. And so he was behind schedule because they couldn't get the tanker unloaded at the plant. For some reason, it wasn't pumping off, right? So then he pushed his schedule another day, and then he was really like, "Okay, we need trucks, And so I'm not his main guy that he calls at all, really. He just calls me normally when he needs like a super dump, right? But I'm definitely not his main hauler, because I'm way further south than what he typically does. He's typically in Seattle and Everett type deal. And he has done a few Auburns, which is closer to where I'm at. How do you clean your beds out if it sets up? So, okay, Sydney, so let me go in to detail on what happened. So I brought home 10 yards of that asphalt, the sticky, nasty stuff. I called my wife. I said, "Hey, honey, I'm bringing home some asphalt. I'm gonna put a little pad in front of the camper. That way, when you get out of the car or you're walking up to the camper, the dirt falls off your shoes before you get to the stairs and go in, right? So I'm gonna pour a little pad right there." And I told her, I said, "Honey, this stuff's cooling down. I don't know if I'm gonna make it in time." And I had to stop for fuel. So I was gonna try and make it all the way home. It wasn't happening. The gauge was on the very bottom part of the E, and I was like, okay, we're going straight to the fuel station. So I stopped by the fuel station, then came home. I backed up in front of the camper, opened the gate, tilted the box all the way up. Nothing was coming out, guys. Nothing. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm not pouring a pad in front of my camper today, and now I'm going to have to go chisel this stuff out, is what I was thinking in my head. And so I just drove forward past my fuel island and then drove around to back up to where my dozer is, where I, dump that type of stuff. And the box was still up, nothing was coming out. And I'm like, oh no. The tailgate wasn't even open. The latches were up, but the tailgate was like kind of frozen solid. Like it was like glued in the closed position. So I go get a crowbar from in here. I walk over there. It's about 100 feet, 150 feet away. I get back, and then I notice that the asphalt's starting to slide down to the bottom. And I'm like, oh, maybe it is warm enough. Maybe it's just super sticky, So I'm like, okay. So I hopped in the truck, closed the latches, pulled all the way up to the fuel island, backed up to the camper again, popped the tailgate, and I kind of just, slammed the brakes a little bit, to help it go. Boom, it started sliding out, and, all of it came out except for there was basically it was probably about 2 feet wide, two long little patches in the bed, basically almost the whole length of the bed, where it was probably about that thick, right? Where the stuff did not come off. And so I put the bed down, and then what I did was I took a can of gasoline, just normal gasoline, and I dumped it all over it, both sides. And then I hopped out of the bed for about 30 minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes, let it kind of soak or whatever. And then I hopped back in there with my shovel and a diesel sprayer. I sprayed the diesel on top of the gas, that way it wouldn't make so much fumes. The diesel kind of holds the gas fumes down. And then just hopped in there with my shovel and just scraped it. It just came right up. That gasoline will eat that tar stuff so fast. It was basically like pushing around rocks. I mean, it was just, just broke it loose. There's no corners in my bed. I mean, there kind of is. The front is round, right? Imagine this. So the front's round, and then at the bottom it has a slope. So it comes down, has a slope, and then it's round the rest of the way back, right? And the part that was at the very bottom, it had so much, it was very, how do I explain this? It had a whole bunch of dirt caked on there for the longest time ever. And before I got loaded, the day before, I chipped that dirt out, and the rust and the dirt was probably still that thick, right? It had a good millimeter, at least maybe 1 or 2 millimeters thick of crusty, dusty dirt over the metal. And I had it soaked, and nothing was there. It didn't stick at all. The asphalt stuck to the dirt, and the dirt fell off, with the asphalt. There wasn't enough dirt to contaminate or load or nothing like that. It was just, just like kind of surface dirt. I don't know how to explain it better than that, but yeah, nothing really stuck in the corner there. I mean, in the front at all. It was just like I said, there was two lines, almost not at the very bottom, but it was probably about 2 feet apart, so probably about that far apart. And then, then this whole section right here, basically. And I poured gas on the top side of the asphalt, so it would just kind of soak down, and then it kind of puddled a little bit in the center. But I mean, that's all it took, just a little bit of gasoline. That stuff, it dissolves it way better than you'd think. It's dangerous. Don't get me wrong. If there was a spark, I would have been blown to Kingdom Kong. There was a lot of gas fumes in that box, But I probably could have mixed it with some diesel to make it less flammable, beforehand. But I just dumped the gas. I probably dumped probably a gallon, maybe a half a gallon, probably a half a gallon in the bed, and it just came right out. I didn't light it on fire or nothing like somebody. I didn't catch my face on fire. Who does that? Pours gasoline in their dump box and then lights it on fire. What? Brandon's here already? Well, that was a short day. What time is it? 1:30. Dang, he probably didn't even get 3 loads in. He probably got 3 in. We were supposed to do 3 each is what he was thinking. It must have, we were going to the same job. So he's already done. It's 1:30. If I would have went, that would have been super, super fast day. Nah, Brandon's he doesn't really like being on camera that much. Huh? Mommy's here too?
Yeah.
Look at this woman. She's flying down this drive. Watch out.
Watch out.
She's going to run you over. So there's our little concrete pad we poured. It's not the smoothest, it was definitely getting cold when we put it down, but thanks to that plate whacker right there, it didn't turn out half bad. I scraped the edges to make it look a little bit straighter. We're going to fill this in with rock so there's not quite a lip right there and right there. But let's go talk to Brandon and see what he says. I got this dump truck parked in his way too. What's up, Brandon? What are you doing, Rosemary? Your daughter's over here peeing on the ground over here. We live out in the woods. She thinks she just go pee anywhere. She's a 4-year-old. She just started peeing over there. What? Oh yeah, you got my part. She was trying to go like this. Ooh, you want it? You want it? You know what this is? Quick drain oil plug. How'd it go, Brandon? Went good? 3 loads? Were they mad that I didn't show up?
No, he didn't even need 3 trucks.
Yeah, I didn't think so. When I seen you rolling, I was like, what? Already?
Yeah.
I figured that you guys were going to do at least 1 more each since I wasn't showing up.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm figuring 4 loads each, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I talked to him. I told him about the truck this morning. And
What'd he say?
he said, alright. Here's what it is. He didn't even need 3 trucks. He only needed 2.
Yeah.
He just got 3 to make the day go quicker.
Yeah. I got a new starter in it already.
I can tell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's moved. Don't get smart with me. Yeah.
But it start up just fine.
Oh, yeah, it starts up first time every time now.
Nice.
I also replaced the power steering reservoir because it had a small crack underneath it. Now it's not going to be leaking any. Man, that rivet is loose. All of them are. I'm going to have to smack this with a hammer and tighten that up so it's not vibrating when you're going down the road. Yeah, but that don't mean it's not vibrating. This is for your truck. Oil drain plug.
Oh.
Bed vibrator. Yeah, maybe it's the bed vibrator that does that too. I mean, I know you use that thing all the time, probably.
Whenever I haul like
Dirt. Yeah. Yeah, because you notice back here, it's not loose. Up here, where the vibrator is, it's loose in the middle, but mainly up front. I mean, it's kind of a stupid design. They should have put, instead of rivets, they should have did bolts or something, but, you know, they cheaped out on that too. Along with everything else they cheaped out on. So sick of companies. Yeah, huck bolts. They should use huck bolts on that. Not these. They're like super, super small aluminum rivets. Like literally this big. Come on. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, John. It's just like, where can we cut corners? Where can we make this faster? What? No, I already had my hamburgers. But the kids are probably hungry. Nope, I didn't make them nothing. They're outside playing. I just let them play. Yes, you are the only one that can make stuff. Do you guys remember the video I did back when I first bought my old Peterbilt? These are great drains. These are the best. So the way this works, this is an oil drain, right? This pushes up and then slides over. See how that works? And then when you push it down, it's got a spring, so it holds it down in the closed position. Anyways, back to when I first bought my 85 Peterbilt. You guys remember the drain, the oil drain I put on that truck? It's like this massive drain. Everybody was like, dude, that's going to hit the ground. I'm like, no, man, I checked the clearance. It looks good to me. You know, it sits up higher than the axle, you know. And everybody's like, I don't know about that, Brian. It was this massive brass drain. It was like this long, you know, and it had the big handle on it. That drain is still on that dump truck. I've only had that thing slightly open once on me. One time. And that was my second, I think it was in the second winter that I had the truck that it happened. And I was going in Cedar Mountain Reclamation, and it was just a complete mud pit. I mean, it was just all like thick mud. Like I was backing up, dumping mud out, and I was driving in mud that was like this deep, and it must have bumped a rock or something. And I get down to the scale, which is like, I don't know, it's probably like 3,000 feet away, you know. And some guy was on the TV like, man, somebody's got a major oil leak. And I was like, well, it could be my truck. It's normally leaking oil, you know. And then the guy that was behind me on the scale was like, hey, man, I think your truck's leaking oil. I'm like, I don't know, man. It normally leaks. And then I got another half mile down the road, and I'm like, you know, I'm just going to pull over and take a look. I don't think it's open, but it might be. It was draining, but not very fast, very slowly. And I reached under there and was like, quick, you know, put it back to where it was supposed to be, and then continued on the day. But yeah, I remember that. I didn't know they made these super low profile oil drains. So, you know, I was like, hardware store, you know, next best thing, you know. The things you do when you don't know what you're doing, you know what I mean? That is a testament to it doesn't matter if you don't know, just try. Try and you'll figure something out, you know, until you do figure it out. Then you know, you know, but you're never going to know unless you try, you know. So they make those in different sizes and styles. Yeah. Easy oil drain valve. What I don't understand is why does this have this funky shape in it? That pentagon. I think it's a pentagon. Octagon or whatever. It's got 5 sides. Why does it have that funky shape in it? So that's one thing I don't understand. Why does it have that funky shape? It does have threads in here, so you can put an elbow straight down if you want. You think they have a tool that installs it? Well, that would be weird. I mean, I could see that, but I mean, you could just put a crescent wrench on this bad boy and thread it in. You know what I mean? Just put a crescent wrench on this part and thread it in. It's just interesting that it has that. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus on it. It's got that. And you can see the gasket. It's a white gasket in there. There's one on each side. I think that side of the socket threads inside. Yeah, this does have threads on the inside of it. Weird. Anyways, this is going on the 2020 Peterbilt because I got an oil change coming up here, and I'm just gonna pop this bad boy on there. It's gonna be so much better because that oil, when you take that plug out, that oil comes out quick. The oil doesn't come out that quick. You know, makes it so much more easier to do the oil change. You just gotta wait longer, you know. Truck's working next week? Probably both of the super dumps are working. I don't know yet. It's too early to say. I'll probably know by, probably by 1 or 2 o'clock. And then for sure, I'll know by 5 whether or not stuff's going down. Yeah, I use synthetic oil. As a matter of fact, I just told my supplier, I said, hey man, I need a 55-gallon drum of 1540, synthetic. That's what I just told him too. And he's going to give me some pricing on it. They'll probably drop that off in a week or so. And then I'll be able to do my oil change on the 2020. Anyways, guys, I'm going to go move that dump truck. So thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you guys on the next one. You guys have a good one.